everyone. Today we're going to talk about how to value and cash in on your collectible. Now, I'm not talking about established collections. I'm more talking about perceived valuable collections. So what I mean by that are things like Pogs and Beanie Babies and Wheat Pennies and Buffalo Nickels and all those things that we seem to squirrel away and have a hard time letting go of because we've been told or have some perception of their value that may or may not be untrue. So I think now is a good time to just rip off the Band-Aid and uncover the truth in whether these things are actually valuable and if they can actually help us accomplish our goals. So here are some of my valuables. One is a tin full of buttons. And the other are some vintage postcards that look beautiful, but I really don't know anything about them. And they're also in a white owl cigar tin, which may in and of itself be valuable, I'm not sure. And then from my own childhood, not inherited, I have Pogs. Goosebumps Pogs. I'm gonna go ahead and assume that those aren't valuable at all, and I have a funny story about that. But more importantly is, what do I do with these? Are they worth keeping? How do I go about them? Do I even want them? These are all questions that I need to answer for myself and that I'm encouraging you to do as well for whatever collection you're hanging on to that you may not actually even want. So as I researched this topic as to what can I do with a lot of these valuables I have, I just seemed to run into circles of information, and it didn't matter really what I was researching. It just seemed to be kind of the same suggestions over and over again, and there were basically 5 steps that it would boil down to, and it was to not look desperate for cash and to take your time in the sale, don't rush it. Gather and secure the collection to make sure nothing bad happens to it, which to me was a little laughable. Separate it into groups and categories so that you really had a good understanding as to what you had available to sell. And then identify and start inventorying every single piece within the different categories. And lastly, assign value to said inventory. So the most critical part in all of this would be assigning the value and not basing it on assumption, basing it on the marketplace. And so there's a couple ways to do that. If you do have something of value and you do research, say in some type of guidebook, they're going to tell you the retail value. You are not a store, so it's likely that by the time you bring it to market and potentially have someone help you bring it to market, you could be getting about 50% of the value of this item. If you're looking to sell more directly and you're not doing research in a guidebook, you're doing research on something like eBay, you're going to get a more realistic day-to-day value on something. So my recommendation is always to first go to eBay. It's just the easiest thing to do. And when you do the research on eBay, don't look at what things are being listed for. It's very easy for people to ask for something. It doesn't mean they're getting it. So when you do the listing, I want you to go to the filters and select completed and sold as options. Also, if you're finding that there are some valuable pieces there, figure out why it's valuable and see if that's something you want to do for yourself. Are they boxing it in a certain way? Does it have original tags? Have they gotten authentication? You're going to want to think long and hard though before you invest more money into this collection thinking that you'll get more profit from it. So for instance, when I was looking at the Beanie Babies, they were averaging about $1 each, but the ones that were maybe boxed and had tags were $5. However, when I looked up just what an empty case was, it was $4. So essentially, someone was just paying the value of the box and still $1 for the Beanie Baby. So don't go crazy trying to invest more money into your collection and make it more reasonable for someone to buy, because you're likely just going to break even and potentially even spend more money than you're going to get back out of it. If you feel like you don't have time to devote to making listings and meeting people and calculating shipping and all of that, decide to just potentially give it away and reclaim the space that you've been missing and want. giving it away can feel very valuable to you just by virtue of donating it to a charity or seeing another family in the area enjoy it. There's lots of ways to do this. There's simply giving it to a local ministry. There's utilizing like the Epilepsy Foundation truck that sends notices out ahead of time to alert you to when they'll be in your area for pickup. And there's also the Facebook Buy Nothing groups. So you may find that another family is really interested in the item. You may also find that nobody wants your item. So for instance, I listed my Pogs for free and nobody came. I got a lot of likes, a lot of laughs, but nobody wanted it. And so that's just good to know, because now I feel perfectly content to just give those Pogs to my toddler to play with. And if she ruins them, perfectly fine. And if I have to throw them out because they get soggy or they get bent or whatever, I don't care. Lastly, if you enjoy the collection and you just really kind of wanted to know, is it actually valuable and worth fretting over, enjoy it. You may just find, hey, it's not worth anything or not worth enough to really worry about, but I like it and I'm going to keep it, and now I actually don't mind putting it out to showcase, because now if it gets ruined or damaged, there's really nothing to cry over, and I got to actually look at it more every day now that I realized that there was no concern over it. So definitely feel free to enjoy it. Write your backstory about it if you were thinking of passing it down to the next generation. Certainly don't pressure them into taking it, but providing them any information you have on the piece, and maybe even just allowing them to understand why it's valuable to you, goes a long way in helping them determine what they want to do with it, and if it's something they want to bring forward with them into their new home.